in our need. Please put a hedge of protection around each and every one of us. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. So I also have the the opportunity to let you know that it is a privilege for us to have this forum tonight here. It's been about 2 months where we've been talking about finance and financial fulfillment, how to be financially stable, and all that in this church, and also the idea that we wanted to continue to express in our means is how to break the cycle of poverty in our means. And we understand to break the cycle of poverty requires a whole lot of people, the entire community, resources that we know. Because when we put all our resources together, we are sure becoming a stronger community. So our goal is to build and to create a stronger community where people can worship better, they can enjoy life better, and they can enjoy a place that is safe to work, safe to worship, and safe to do what we're supposed to do as a citizen of Orange County and right here, particularly in Orlando. So we've been focusing on resources, on bringing people together in one place to see if that can happen, because it takes an entire village to raise one child, and we believe it takes an entire village to just help each other get better. So we believe in interdependence, where we'll come and share. So that's why some of you are here. We're here just to share and help one another grow, especially in the community that we are in, with the ultimate goal to make our community better. So I want to welcome Attorney Michael Stewart, who's here in the house. Yeah, let's give hands to. Yeah, later on you'll know more about him. I know he's running to be a judge, Orange County, right? Orange County and Osceola running to be a judge, so soon to be a judge. So we are excited to have you here in this forum with us, and later on you have a chance to tell more about you. And also we are here to welcome Anne Preville, Anne Moonlakai. Moonlakai, she's also an attorney, and later on you will learn a little bit more about who she is and the kind of service, particularly the service that she offers in our community. It's not far. It's not far, right here in our community. So we are excited for the services. For those of you watching live on Facebook or YouTube, we welcome you. If you have questions, we're gonna see if the media department could see your questions and bring them over here, as we are here to share. We are here to share information, what we know and what we have. We can share it with the community to help our community be, of course, a better community. So not only those of you watching on Facebook and YouTube, but our audience, live audience, I thank you for being here. And thank you again for participating in this forum tonight. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you the best people who make this happen all throughout those 2 months. Peterson and Maryland, they've been essential to the 2 months of financial literacy. So we are glad to have them in our means. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's just put our hands together, as not only to welcome them, but to also thank Peterson and Milan for the great work they have done for the past 2 months. Once again, thank you for all that you've done to help our community be a better place financially. And I know by the grace of God, we are in this for good. We're going to be great. We're going to be good. We're going to be awesome in Jesus' name. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Peterson and Milan.
Hello guys, how are you all doing? Well, those that were here throughout the past 2 months, I know you guys learned so much, but like always in class, I always ask questions before we start. So what did we learn from the past 2 months, if there's anything about the rules that we talk about, the rules of finance? World 70 was 70, 20, 10. So you don't, guys, we have guests, so please be good. What is the 70? What is the 70? All right, all right. So so one last question. One last question. What is the rule that we talked about for your 20? What is the rule of investment? Rule 72. Rule 72. What is Rule 72 tells us to do? It tells you how long it takes for your investment to double.
Sister Astrid is on a stride this
I know,
afternoon.
right? She's going to. I'm telling you, I'm happy that, if there's anything, we learned some stuff today. I mean, throughout the last 2 months. So let me do a quick summary. I mean, as a matter of fact, I should let this.
No, you go ahead, brother.
Go ahead. I'll let you do some
Doing
exercise,
great,
and then
doing
we'll do
great, doing great.
some summary, and then we'll introduce our panel and so on and so forth. All right. So go ahead, Sister Milan.
You were in the right path. So, Brother Peterson, always a great resource for the community. New Hope, as we join together, and then we do the summary of what we learned last month. Our main focus is for you to empowered as a kingdom individual. We want you to have kingdom-minded, and then what you do, be intentional on everything that you do.
Yes, definitely. And I remember last week when we were talking, I keep mentioning this, and I'm going to go back to it. Rule of finance, and just like in our everyday lives, and I keep saying it, and sometimes we neglect the fact that, okay, it's just I have $100, and I can just go ball out. I can do this, I can do that. But we have principles for the stuff that we do. We know, okay, if we keep on smoking, we might have cancer later on. We know, as Christian, we know, okay, fornication is a bad thing, and we don't practice those because these are some of the rules that we establish in our lives. So that's the reason I go back and mention those rules in finances. Because if we're trying to get anywhere in life, we must understand the rules that apply so we can play by those rules. One person that put it great is Sister Milan when she said, hey, you have to understand the rules in order for you to win. So it's a game. Life, we must understand it and understand all the games the game that we are playing in life, and understand the rules that applies so we know what rules to play by. I always say, and if I'm wrong, lawyer, please let me know. The first thing you guys do before you guys defend a case, you understand what happened and read the law to see, okay, hey, I can go there. I can actually even try to push the limit because you understand the law that applies to the case before you even try to present it to the judge. Just like for finances, I mentioned it, is we have to understand the rules of finances in order for us to even move to the direction that we want to move in life. We all have great plans. We want to put our kids to college. We want to do this. We want to do that. But if we don't understand it, anywhere, I always say it, if you don't know where you're going, you can make any place your destination. So,
with further ado, so we're going to introduce our guests this afternoon before we move forward. So we have our financial, personal, and business finance. We did have several guests that came 2 weeks ago, talk to us about business, how to build business. There's 3 ways that we can increase our finances, and one way it's business. So we had that segment last 2 weeks ago.
yes.
Yeah, we had that segment. So we're gonna a little bit brush on that a little bit for you if you're interested in getting into business as well.
Yeah, and I think they learn a lot of stuff too. I like the difference between Streams, anybody knows the difference between streams of income and source of income? Yes. So the person that says yes in the back, what is a stream of income? Yes. It makes money while you're not doing anything about it. That's your stream, yes. Yes. That's a source. Yes. So
You're good, you're good. Keep
yeah,
going.
Yes, a passive would be like a type of stream. So our goal is to create streams of income, not multiple sources, right? Why is that important? Why is that important? Like creating a stream of income instead of, go ahead. Correct. So our goal as Christian and as people, is to try to create as many streams of income as possible. So when we retire, right, physically retire, that they are still working. I always say this: the hardest worker in the world is a dollar. It's not a person. Once you put your dollar to work, it works days and night. So that's your hardest worker. So don't waste them when they come in your hands. Put them to work.
Definitely. So our time is valuable. We don't want to waste any of our time, so we want to make the time work for us as well. Now, when we talk about finances, Brother Peterson, on one of the segments we have, it's about retirement.
Yes.
It's about security. And retirement is tied up with security.
Yes.
So we talk about insurance, one of the big things, and then we have an attorney in the house, and he specializes in insurance. Is gonna brush up a little bit with us about why insurance, why to insure, how to get your benefit. A lot of time that we think insurance is just for the rich. So we're not rich, we don't need insurance. We're going to talk about estate and trust. That's one of the main focus this afternoon, the estate planning and the trust. A lot of time we think that we need to have a lot of money to establish our wealth. And to establish wealth, it doesn't take that much. It just takes that little plan that you need to have that objective with the goals, and then to start moving forward. And once you start there, then yes, everything else come out of the bag and you have to put it together.
Great. So let's not have, since I know we started a little bit late, so we'll ask our panelists to start coming forward. So put your hands together for two attorneys in the
Michael Stewart and Anne Pierreville. Attorney Michael Stewart and Attorney Anne Pierreville. A pleasure. So we're going to get the mic ready for our guest this afternoon. I'm going to join them so they can feel comfortable. You are home, so let me join them. We want to thank our pastor and also our First Lady Caroline Terville. That's make it possible this afternoon. Always beautiful as always, gorgeous. Make it possible for us to have this live this afternoon, for us to share with our community financial literacy. What is financial literacy? Financial literacy is the education that we must have in order for us to manage our finances, to make sure that we know how money works and make money work for us. Our panelists this afternoon, they're gonna help us understand a couple of the things that we already know, but we want to bring it at light to the community. And at the same time, we're going to open the floor for you to ask questions. This forum is mainly for you to ask questions.
Sure.
So you online, if you are looking this through Facebook or YouTube, if you have any question, please feel free to type your question for the attorney. We have attorney Michael Stewart, and we also have attorney Anne Pierreville. She is the community attorney. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, like I always do. I always like to let our guests introduce themselves to who can better talk about what they do than them. So we have a guest for first time. Anne been in the house before, so we're gonna pass to attorney Michael Stewart. As this is his first time here, so we're gonna present attorney Michael Stewart.
Thank you, Merlon. Thank you for having me. So my name is Michael Stewart. I'm an attorney. I work for Geico Staff Counsel. So I'm an in-house attorney for a Geico insurance company. So if you end up getting into an accident and someone sues you, I'm the person that is hired to defend you. Or, which is also very likely, you are hit by someone that doesn't have any insurance, or they don't have enough insurance to cover all your injuries. And in those cases, you'll end up suing Geico, and I represent Geico in those lawsuits. So insurance is it's a very important part of your financial planning and your risk management, which is something we can talk about a little bit as we go on more into this. But I've been an attorney for 12 years. Been at Geico for almost 6 years now, and I've also have experience in criminal defense, as well as working for larger insurance companies defending larger corporations in personal injury actions, medical malpractice, negligent security, wrongful death, trucking accidents. So a diverse background of experience.
So you have done it all.
I'm sorry?
You have done it all.
I've almost done it all, almost done it all. And I'm also a candidate for office. I'm running for judge in Orange and Osceola counties, 9th Judicial Circuit. So it's an August primary, but we can talk about that a little later.
Great. Okay, we have our in-house attorney here in the community. We call it in-house community attorney because whenever we have an issue in the community, now we have someone we can go to that is next door. Her office is close by. Attorney Anne Pierreville, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. My name is Anne Pierreville. I am an attorney with Florida Legal Services. I am their Equal Justice Works Fellow. My project was to create a medical legal partnership for the Haitian community in Central Florida. I work with Orange Blossom Family Health to provide free legal services to their patients and also to provide free legal services to the Haitian community here. I'm very happy to be here because I understand that legal fees can be very high, and I'm grateful to work with a legal aid organization. We do not charge for our services, so I'm able to help my clients with immigration, housing issues, income issues, work-related injuries, working conditions, family stability issues. My goal is to help the whole person. So we want to make sure that the Haitian community is going to get health care. So they're going to the doctor, they're getting the treatment they need, but if they have any other legal issues, that's where I come in. So I work with the medical staff at this clinic. The clinic does not charge a high fee, and they don't look at status, and you don't need insurance at this clinic. And so we want to make sure the Haitian community is getting the medical resources that they need, and then you come to me and I help with your legal resources. And so we want to make sure that the Haitian community understands the resources available to them, to their children, and then also understand that we don't charge. Most legal aid organizations either don't charge or they charge low fees, but we don't want people going to non-attorneys to get their immigration or other things done incorrectly and paying hundreds, thousands of dollars. We want you to come to a legal aid organization that they can help you and give you access to justice. So my goal the last 2 years has been working with the Haitian community, going to different churches, different organizations to promote awareness about the Haitian community, to help people understand our community, and to show that we have support within the community. We just need to build together. So it's very important that the Haitian community understands these type of resources, and then they know where to go to get them.
Great, great, great. What a, see, will I be able to say all these things that she said? No. With my Creole, Spanish, English mixed together. So great. Now, because we have two attorneys in the house, we're going to make it right to you. We're going to open the floor for you to ask any question that you might have in regards to anything that's pertaining to the field. And of course, I myself, Melanie St. Fleur, as you guys know, I'm a financial professional, licensed in the financial industry and annuities, so I can help with anything that have to do with finance from A to Z. So I do document preparation. My expertise is on underwriting, so when it comes to policies, that's your girl. So I write, schedule matrix, make sure when you're gonna get this money, make sure you get approved. When you're gonna get a policy, make sure you get your best policy. Or when you want to give something, make sure you give it the right way so whoever needs it can benefit from it. So that's your girls here. So anytime, I'm on the floor here as your servant. Now, since we have two attorneys in the house today, he has done criminal, he has done claims, you name it, he has done it. And she has helped in various, I would say, fields when it comes to helping the community. My question to them before we start, first, I'm going to go with Attorney Pierreville. What makes your heart throw toward the Haitian community for you to help to participate with two organizations like the legal services, the farms workers, and then all these great organizations that you affiliate with to provide the service that the community needed as for free of charge?
So I'm Haitian American. I was born in this country, however, my parents are from Haiti. So I grew up in Central Florida. I watched my parents, what they went through. I watched my Haitian community. So we live outside of Orlando in a small community where we went to a Haitian church. So I saw people that did not have status. I understood what it meant when a person is working in the fields. Things have gotten better, but things are still very hard for immigrants that come in this country. So I knew I always wanted to help the Haitian community because I saw what my parents did to make sure I got an education, to make sure I was able to provide for myself. And so I wanted to make sure that I returned what my parents and my community did for me to this community. So when I went to school, I majored in social work so I could learn how to help people, I could understand emotions and mental health. And then I realized that the real need in the Haitian community was legal advocacy. They needed access to justice. They needed to understand not just immigration, when they are trying to sue someone for civil suits, when they have different issues with loan companies, with evictions, all these different issues, and they have no one and they don't know where to go. And so when I was doing my research, I wanted to make sure I went back to my community and I gave them what they needed. I saw in Central Florida, there's not a lot of organizations that had a Haitian Creole speaker. So we don't know where to go because you can't speak with this person. You don't understand the resources available compared to other immigrants. And so I wanted to help. I wanted to be in that gap and to help individuals because I understood the need. I saw the need in the community. So it brings me great joy to be able to help. It's the best thing I can tell somebody after I've helped them. For example, do a TPS application and I say, you don't have to pay me. And they went to someone else and that person charged them $500. And I just did it for free. I am so grateful that I'm in this place where I'm able to provide services to people that need it, people that don't have those funds. And so we're talking about finance, you can invest now with this extra $500 that you may have, but it's very important to come back to your community and to make sure you build it up. I had the opportunity to get a bachelor's degree and a JD. So for me, it wouldn't make sense for me to not be working in my community, to not come back to my community, to forget my community, because there's still work that needs to be done. And if not me, who? I can't expect people to come into the community and to want to help Haitians, and I'm Haitian American, I don't want to help my community. So it's very important for me to understand that and to bring awareness. Always talk, wherever I go, you need to know that I'm a Haitian American woman. I advocate for Haitian Americans in this community, and we need to make sure that Haitians are seen and heard.
Great, great, great. Wow, 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 wow. Now, I will ask the same questions in a different way to Attorney Stewart. What's make you choose the field that you're in now, and then seeking now on a seat on the circuit court? Within what you have seen in the community, what make your heart go towards that right now?
Well, what got me into the law was a passion for justice. I had my own personal experiences when I was in law school and an interaction with law enforcement, which got me to think, how are people being treated? And if I got treated the way I was when what happened to me, how are other people being treated who don't have the same circumstances as me? So when I graduated from law school, it was in the recession in 2010. Even though the recession ended in 2009, the legal economy was still decimated by 2010. There were no jobs. And I ended up getting a job out of law school, one of a few people from my class that actually did. And I did it for 2 years, and I didn't have that passion. I didn't enjoy what I was doing. And I wanted to go to the public defender's office, which was what brought me here to Orlando, Florida. And because I had a passion for representing indigent defendants, pursuing justice and civil rights. And after doing that for 4 years, 28 jury trials, holding the state to their burden, I ended up having a family. And at that point, you've got responsibilities, you have mouths to feed, and that's what got me back into the insurance business. And
why is that the insurance business? Insurance business, whenever somebody wants to step on, they just insurance business.
Well, it is a business. At the end of the day, the insurance company is trying to make money. It's about spreading risk. It is all about money. It is. It's true. You're spreading risk. Whether it's health insurance, whether it's homeowners insurance, whether it's auto insurance, you're getting a bunch of people to pool their money together, and the insurance company is sitting there trying to figure out, okay, we think maybe 1%, 2% of these people are actually going to face a bad situation, and we're going to have to pay out those claims, but we're pooling our money together, and you're shifting the risk amongst everyone else, so we're all paying for, God forbid, if something happens to Merlon, her claims get paid out because of the bad situation that happened to her, and the rest of us never actually get to use the services. It's one of the weird businesses where you're paying money into something, and most likely you're never actually getting anything from it. You're never going to use it. But what you're buying is peace of mind, and that's what you're selling to people in the insurance business. But it is a business, and they're looking to make money, and we get into disputes with denying claims and how much should be paid. But it is a business. It is first and foremost a business. But it's investigating and figuring out the right claims and the ones that should be paid. And so then
your heart and the community for this secret court. So.
Oh yeah, and then what drives me to the circuit court position is I've become the person that I'm running against is someone that was appointed by a governor's office, and I believe that we should be choosing who has the privilege of serving in our community in these very important positions. And circuit court, just so everyone knows, they handle the most serious trial court cases in state court, felony cases, civil lawsuits over $30,000, divorces, child custody, alimony, complex business suits, estates and trusts, delinquency and dependency, cases involving kids that are committing criminal acts. They're not called criminal acts, they're called delinquent acts, or dependency if the court has to get involved in the child's family life. It's our most serious cases, and we should be choosing who has the privilege of serving in these positions. And I know firsthand if the people who are being chosen for us don't have the similar values of this community, it's people will end up with an impact on their lives directly, particularly in the criminal courtrooms, that it's concerning. It can be very concerning. And if you think it can be better, if you want to help make it better, you can either hope it gets better or you can put yourself out there and do something about it. And that's what I want to do and help make it as best as it can be.
When we talk about going to court, I mean, nobody likes to go to court. When you say court, when you get served, you have to answer within that 20 days. No one wants to talk about this kind of situation, regardless if it's just something civil or if it's something where you get the other way around. What is the process? Because we're talking about finance. One of the big things, like Attorney Pierreville just said, that when you're in the community, there are some services that that's limited to the community for them to receive as a community for free. And then here you are, you get sued or something presented to you, and then you don't have a budget for that. You don't have a budget to hire an attorney, and then you get served, or no, you get served to answer within 20 days of whatever claim that might be. You as an attorney and now going to seek the chair in the circuit court, what is the process? Because a lot of time, I don't think most people understand the financial impact the moment you get served.
Well, and one of the benefits of insurance that a lot of people don't understand is if you are paying your insurance policy and you get sued, the insurance company will most likely be providing the defense for you. They will hire the attorney and they will pay for the costs associated with that. A lot of people, if they get served, they just take the paperwork and don't do anything with it. They don't turn it over to their insurance company. They'll throw it in a drawer. That's the worst thing possible you can do. If you ever get sued and you have insurance, you want to make sure you notify your insurance company immediately, because one of the most severe consequences is if you get served with that paperwork, the complaint, you have to answer it within 20 days. If you do not answer it within 20 days, the person or entity that sued you can move for what's called a default judgment. And if they end up getting that default judgment entered against you, they've now established that you are basically, in the example of a car accident, you are at fault for the car accident. Causation has been established. The only thing to be tried at that point is damages. And that could be within anything. You get sued because you allegedly didn't pay your credit card bill. You get sued in a personal injury action. It doesn't matter.
Foreclosure.
Foreclosure, exactly. And then yes, exactly. And that would be the most extreme consequence, because you could lose your home. You get that, you need to make sure you answer it immediately. Foreclosure, though, isn't a situation where you'll probably have to hire your own attorney for that. But car accidents, the Geico pays for your attorney, and all the other insurance companies do as well.
So if you get sued, so if somebody have an auto policy and then they they were involved in some sort of accident, or sometimes people they sue them, they don't even know they were in a lawsuit, and then so they have to have the insurance company involved.
Yeah, no, that is part. It's the duty to indemnify, the duty to make payments, to pay, but there's also a duty to defend. And the insurance policy, is a contract. So you have entered into a contract with whoever the company is that you will pay premiums, or you pay a premium for a 6-month time period, and in exchange for that, if a claim is made during that time, they will pay it if it's a rightful claim, but they're also paying for the cost to defend you.
So it's not just when I get hit in an accident and then I can just go after my benefit, but it's the other way around as well. If something were to happen, then that's the company need to take charge and defend me.
Yes, in that situation. And even your homeowner's insurance policy can provide a defense for people. I had a case once where I was assisting in the defense of a case where these kids were driving around in a golf cart, and the golf cart tipped over, and one kid hit his head, and he actually had a very serious injury, and he ended up dying. And the plaintiff's attorney ended up suing the parents that owned the golf cart and all of the kids that were in the golf cart. And one of the kids who was sued had an attorney paid for them because of their homeowner's insurance policy. So your homeowner's insurance policy can potentially extend very far and provide you a duty to defend, but you have to notify them if you get sued. It may not, but they have to they may end up having to cover a cost of defense for you.
So knock these doors. We need to knock these doors.
Yes.
Once we receive when we get served, we need to knock all the doors.
Yeah.
Now, since this is a forum, so we are taking questions as we move along. And Attorney Pierreville, I'm going to go with the foreclosure part because we know a lot of people have difficulty sometimes to pay the rent, sometimes to pay the mortgage. So going with the same question that we're talking about, how far when we get served, and then we lack of funds, and how can we go? So I believe we have a question. I don't know if it's for Attorney. We need a mic for them. Okay, go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon. Thank you both for being here and enlightening and shed light and educate our community. And my first question is for Attorney Stewart. As me, a regular citizen with very little knowledge of legacy of any sorts, what are some pointers you can point out to educate us, the regular people, the community, to say, these are some of the things you guys should be aware of. That's not illegal, but also can be beneficial to a regular person like myself who's don't know much about anything as far as when we're picking our car insurance. What are the things we should look at? How should we pick those information and go about it? Because I can call an insurance company, I need insurance. So they just give me insurance, but whatever they give me, what do I know that, if I don't know, I don't know. If I don't know what question to ask, if I don't know what's the right thing that I needed, I just don't know. So what are some things you can point out to us that would help us in the future while we're picking our insurance company?
Thank you for that question. I guess there's many different types of coverages. You do not just want to go and be like, whatever's the cheapest, buy that. What is it going to take to get my car on the road? No bodily injury recovery, $10,000 in property damage, and $10,000 in personal injury protection. Get me on the road. You do not want that.
Most time we want to we just want the cheapest one or whatever we can afford if we don't have a budget.
So, you want to look at the amount of coverage they're giving you, the limits. You don't just want $10,000, $20,000. You want something more substantial, a $100,000, $300,000 or higher, because if anything happens and there's a judgment above that insurance policy limit, the insurance company's not responsible for that. You are responsible personally for that. And that's just bodily injury if you get sued. There's other types of coverage as well. Property damage coverage. People will think, oh, what does it matter? If I get into an accident and I only have $10,000 insurance and I can't fix my car, it doesn't matter. Well, if the other insurance company ends up spending money repairing their person's car, they will sue you for the money that they paid. And it doesn't matter if you're poor. I defend people in cases, they're called property damage subrogation cases, where, for example, State Farm or Progressive will sue the Geico person that was driving a car and caused an accident, and they will sue them personally for the property damage that was caused in that accident. I had one case once where my client hit a $120,000 Mercedes, so they were suing him for like $70,000 because they only had a $10,000 policy, and they expected a payment out of their pocket. And if they can't get a payment out of you, they'll put you on a payment plan of, okay, well, instead of seeking $70,000 against you, we'll seek $40,000, and you can pay us $100 a month till basically forever.
What about the lien? Sometimes if they know you have property and then you were reluctant to pay or anything, they put a lien on it?
Well, there's homestead protections, and I don't get into asset protection advice with some of my customers. They have to consult with their own personal attorney for that. But Florida does have homestead protection, so there are some assets they actually can't go after. like a home, a 401k, potentially a pension, but that's something that goes outside my area of expertise. But other things, comprehensive and collision, just because you have some property damage coverage, collision, the car gets involved in an accident and there's damage, that's going to repair it. Comprehensive, though, is if something that's not a car hits it, a tree branch falls on it, there's hail damage. If you don't have that coverage because you declined it because it made your policy $40 cheaper, well, if the branch falls on your car, you're going to be personally responsible for fixing it. So those are things that you want to look for. And one of the most important is underinsured motorist coverage. About 30.
What we call UM.
There's two types, uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. It's basically the same thing. If the person hits you has no insurance or they don't have enough, someone driving around with $10,000 of insurance, and actually in the state of Florida, you don't even have to have bodily injury insurance to put your car on the road. So the person could be legally driving on the road and they have no bodily injury coverage and they hit you. If you don't have UM insurance, uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage, there's nothing to sue. And, oh, well, I have health insurance, that should cover my medical bills. Well, what about your lost wages? What about your pain and suffering? If it's a bad enough accident, you may not be able to work for 3 months, 4 months. Where are you going to get compensation for that? So that's something
Pain
you
and
should look
suffering,
at.
that's one of the main things sometimes when someone have to do the claim, they
Yeah.
neglected the pain and suffering, whatever they offer them up front, they just grab it and go. And then 2-3 months down the line, the pain start, and then they start having all these issues. Sometimes I have a client one time that have nightmares and of the accident. They couldn't go to work for a long time
Yeah.
because they have stress, post-traumatic stress after the accident, but because they did not physically injured, so they did not think behind that.
And that's, you know, there's a number of components of damages. Your past medical bills, what you've incurred, your future medical bills, what you think you'll with reasonable certainty, get in the future. But then there's your pain and suffering, my lost enjoyment of life, the fact that I now have this pain for the rest of my life. How has that decreased the enjoyment of my life? And for the future, if I'm going to live another 30, 40 years and this pain's never going to go away, I'm entitled to compensation for that. Now, it's a Geico attorney.
So we're talking about
we're going to fight
quality
that.
of life. We're talking about
Exactly.
quality of life. You don't have the same quality that you used to have before the accident, and after the accident, you have a different quality of life. All that
Yes.
make part of pain and suffering.
Exactly. But, you know, the UM insurance, it's very important. You don't want to skimp on that because you've got 30 or 40% of the drivers in Florida having no insurance or $10,000 of insurance. And I'll have these, and I'm sorry to filibuster here and take over, but I'll stop after this. I represent cases where we have a Geico insured that causes an accident with multiple cars, and 7 people are fighting over $20,000. So you better have UM insurance in that circumstance because, oh, well, this person has a brain injury, and this person had a fracture, and this person had emergency surgery, and you know, if you don't have UM insurance, there's nothing to go after.
You solo.
Yeah, so it's very important.
I believe that we have another questions coming our way. These are we having a wealth of information delivering to us this afternoon. I believe we have another questions coming our way.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I actually have 2 questions. One about insurance, but I want to go with my immigration questions first. So I can give
That will be for Attorney Pierre.
And yes, if I receive a letter from immigration that sent me to get fingerprinted, now that I've done that, can I go get a social? Can I get a driver's license with that? What would be my next move?
So unfortunately, in the state of Florida, they now have the Real ID. With the Real ID, there's a acceptable document table. It depends on what form you submitted to immigration. Some, they will use the receipt notice and your passport and you can get ID. Some, they require you have an approval letter that you received this immigrant benefit. So it just depends what you applied for. For the Social Security, card, the Social Security card, depending on what you applied for, when you applied for the employment authorization, it asked if you want to receive a Social Security number. If you chose yes and you gave them consent, then they'll file that. If not, you'll wait until you get that approved application from the employment authorization, and then you can apply for the Social Security number. However, I will say this, there's a misconception in the immigrant community that you need the Social Security number. So a lot of people enter the country, they want to work, they want a Social Security number. However, if you're not a U.S. citizen, this Social Security number doesn't give you benefits. It is so you can work. You need the work authorization first. So a lot of people go after the Social Security number first. You need to have some immigrant benefit that allows you to get work authorization and then the Social Security number. Because you'll see when you get the Social Security number, it's gonna say employment authorization only, and it has an expiration date. But a lot of people don't understand that, and they think, oh, I have a Social Security number, I'm in this country. For example, temporary protected status. That allows you to work, and with a work authorization, you can get a Social Security number. But you are not a permanent resident. You are not a U.S. citizen. That Social Security number doesn't provide you access to benefits of people that are legal permanent residents or U.S. citizens. It's just a number that's associated with your work authorization, but you don't get benefits of a U.S. citizen or a legal resident.
Well, it's not so much about the benefits per se. It feels like, like everywhere that I'm trying to go, either to get a driver's license, they're asking for the Social Security number. And even to get enrolled in school, that's what they're asking for. So I guess, I had a family member that did apply for me for a green card. And they did send me the paper to get my finger printed. And I haven't heard anything since. So I guess I'm trying to see if I'm able to use that receipt to get a social so I can, get a driver's license and go to college or stuff like that.
For that instance, I would have to check the table to see what they are looking for a person that has applied for the adjustment of status, the permanent legal status. So whatever the table says, whether it's the approval or the biometrics, that's what you would need to submit. But I can tell you, it's not just the Social Security number. You have to show proof that you have some type of pending or approval of an immigrant benefit to get a Florida's driver's license. I know for a fact it's not just a Social Security number. They want to see that approval to know that this person has proper legal status to be in the state of Florida.
Attorney Pierreville, is that sometime they get the receipt, let's say they submit the document, they submit the application, and they get the receipt of that application. Would the receipt of the application serve as that they have something pending so they can get that, or they can get the license?
Unfortunately, it does not. Again, it depends on what you submitted, but for most applications, it would not be sufficient for the Florida driver's license because it's just a receipt notice. And you'll see on the receipt notice, it's gonna say, this does not mean approval because it just shows they received it. For example, temporary protected status was for Haitian individuals that were living in the U.S. before July 29th, 2021. A lot of Haitians that have just entered in September that were at the border, or people that entered now, have submitted temporary protected status applications. They now have a receipt notice, but they're gonna deny that application because they don't qualify. You see why they won't give you a driver's license, because a receipt notice just means they received it. There's a receipt saying we received these documents from you. That does not mean that you're approved for the document or that you're gonna receive the documents or whatever that immigrant benefit is. So unfortunately, a lot of organizations won't accept the receipt notice because it just shows that they received it.
Talking about impact, when we talk about immigrant, we have. Oh, you have another. You have. Oh, okay. So we have. I think we have. We're going in a row. We're going in a row. So yes, what was the follow-up question that's connected to that one?
Well, I guess, let me, so everybody can get a turn. I'll come back but let me ask my insurance question. 3 years ago, I was in a car accident. I got rear-ended by a Geico insurance holder.
No comment.
Seriously, though. No, seriously.
Get into the fifth right there.
And I ended up going to the hospital. I ended up having to do therapy and all that. But lucky for me, I was on my job's time, so workers' comp kind of covers some of these stuff. But now I still get stuck with whatever left over from the accident, hospital bill. I guess I took on a lawyer, and Geico did contact me and asking me, question. But as soon as I told them that I had a lawyer, they stopped reaching out to me. And that's the last I've heard of either Geico or the lawyer that I took on. So now I still get bothered, they're still calling me about, payment for those hospital bills. So what will be my next move here? Can I still call Geico to settle with them, or do I still...
Attorney Stewart say he has the fee from that guy for one.
Because I think they were saying that, there's Florida $10,000 or whatever, because they said workers' comp was going to take it. I mean, it was...
You're looking for your money right now.
No, but seriously, though, I felt like it was it was more peace of mind to me just set a payment to pay it off, instead of having to go through all of that. But what are my options, really? Because I'm paying for it, not that I want to, but what would be my option?
And this one puts me in a little bit of a difficult... I wish you had said it was like an unnamed insurance company. First off, I would call whoever that attorney was that you hired and find out whether or not they're claiming they dropped you or not and what the reason was. Because if they're not representing you, you will either potentially need to go find another attorney because there's a 4-year statute of limitations for accidents, for personal injury accidents. Underinsured motorist is 5 years.
From what time is the statute of limitation is?
Date of the accident. So if you got...
That's what we call the DOL.
Yeah, the DOL, the date of incident, DOI, DOL. So if you were involved in an accident about 3 years ago, you're coming up on a statute of limitations. And if you've got medical bills that need to be paid, you're going to want to jump on that. Now, like I said, the first thing I do is I'd call whoever that attorney was. Maybe I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they dropped you and they sent you a letter and you moved and you didn't update your address and... Okay, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but you need to find out if they've dropped you or what's going on. Maybe they went and did an investigation and found out that the person didn't have enough insurance to cover it. I don't know, but I would find out whether they still represent you, and if not, you may need to go make your own. You may need to go hire another attorney to represent your personal injury interest. Now, you can, even though it's a workers' comp case, I'll have cases where people have workers' comp and then they still sue the driver for their own bodily injury claim, which you can do.
Now, Attorney Pierreville does work comp, so what would be your advice to him, let's say if the attorney that he has dropped him and then for whatever reason he did not receive the letter, so what will be his thing for the work comps when it's come to that? Where will you be able to fit in there?
One, I would have to refer you out. I personally don't do workers' comp. We have a workers' comp attorney in my office, and they handle all those cases. So you'll be able to explain it to me, and then we'll refer you out, and he could answer those questions best.
Thank you. We do have... Thank you. So we do have another one coming our way.
Okay, just a quick question in regards to insurance. Let's say I'm the insured, and then I get sued by a claimant, and I'm the insured, and my insurance dropped me, and I have a case that's pending. I got a lawsuit that's pending. So the insurance dropping, what do you do in that case? Do you follow through with the insurance, or the insurance will follow through with you?
So you're saying that they dropped you, they're saying there's no insurance coverage?
No,
and
I guess, like, I'm the insured, I get sued by a claimant, and
yes.
Now the insurance dropped me. I have a case that's pending as we speak. So now, and then I go through another insurance. So did my current insurance that I am now will take over that claim, or the old insurance will continue with that claim?
Whatever insurance you had at the time of the accident is the one that's responsible for covering it. And I don't know what the circumstances are of why they dropped you, or whether they dropped you before or after this accident happened. But even if you go out afterwards and get insurance, that's not good enough. It has to be the insurance you had at the time of the accident. So if the company that you had is for whatever reason not covering it, you need to find out why. Because I mean, there are options to sue insurance companies. So you may need to look into that, because they have a duty to defend you. So there may be an issue, as they'll say, well, you didn't, and I'm not saying this happened, you didn't pay us, so we dropped you as an insured, or oh, your policy lapsed and you never renewed. Lapsed meaning expired. So you need to find out why it is they dropped you, or they're not saying that there's coverage. Because technically, if you had valid insurance and you've been sued, they can't, and they're claiming there's some reason that they shouldn't be providing you coverage, they actually have to file their own separate lawsuit. It's called a DEC action, Declaration of Judgment, to get a judge to issue basically a ruling that there is no insurance coverage. And a lot of times they'll issue what's called a reservation of rights letter. They'll still defend you even though the claim's going on. They're just saying if anything is ever owed, we don't have to pay it, but they'll still defend you. So the first thing I would say is get in touch with whoever you believe your insurance company was at the time, and find out, are you saying that I have or don't have insurance, and what is the reason you're denying my insurance? And if they are, that would be the first step to take.
Okay, thanks.
Going to her questions, what are the key things that will trigger, because that's affecting most of the minority community, they get dropped. I mean, they get dropped in a heartbeat, an accident happened, they get dropped, something happened with the property and then they get dropped. So what will be the key thing that's triggered the company, I would say general, what would be the trigger for them to just drop that particular policy? Just general.
They've made an assessment. I mean, it's risk. They, for whatever reason, because like we talked about before, insurance is a risk business. We're shifting risk from, I don't want to carry this risk personally, I want to shift it to this company that's going to spread it out a bunch of people. So they'll drop you because they've made a determination that for whatever reason, you are too risky to insure, or your property is too risky to insure. Now with regard to like auto insurance, unless you've done something to violate the contract, they really can't drop you. And those are more specific terms, 6 months, a year, unless you're not paying them. If you miss a payment, you don't pay them, they'll drop you. But
especially when something happened, like that happened.
Yeah, and if they think they can get out of a claim by, oh, well, the person didn't, that's the easiest way to get out of it. Well, there was no insurance, the person didn't pay. So
the same way, talking about the risk assessment, that's the big thing, because community risk assessment, when they make the risk assessment, there you see some area that for the same policy, you get charged higher amount than when we're talking about the risk assessment, the big pool. So, when we live in an area where the big pool is a higher risk, so the policy tend to be higher.
Yeah, and in the auto accident, they'll look at, well, where do you drive, and in the area that you claim that you drive on average, are there more likely to be accidents there? And if there are, they're going to charge you more than if you're in an area where there aren't as many accidents. So that all factors in. So just even depending on what zip code you're living in.
So that definitely affects our pocket. This is big time.
Oh, yeah.
We do have another questions coming in from the audience.
Okay, I have two questions. One for Attorney Stewart and one for Attorney Pierville. I'm going to go with her first. My question was, he asked about Social Security and driver's license. So what about ID, just the Florida ID? If I don't have any papers and I just need my ID, not a driver's license, and I have my fingerprinted done, can I use that to just get an ID, just so I can have an identification in the country?
So unfortunately, No, it depends on what application. So depending on the application, for example, asylum application or the TPS application, it's gonna say for this application, we need proof of these documents. But biometrics or receipt notice probably is not gonna be enough. It depends on what application you submitted, but they're gonna wanna show proof of something from that application. It might be the approval notice, sometimes it may be the receipt notice and a passport, but it depends on each application. Each application is different, but unfortunately in the state of Florida with this new Real ID, it's very difficult for a person that's not documented to get even just a ID, identification. Depending on your county though, you may be able to get a community ID. So I know in South Florida, Broward County, they have a program for community ID where you don't need to show that you're a legal resident or a U.S. citizen, and you can get a community ID. Farm Worker Association of Florida, they provide community ID, so you can go there. They have an office in Apopka, Florida. You go there, you fill out some paperwork. I believe it's about $20 to $25. They will give you ID. Now, is this a state-issued ID? No, but it's gonna have your picture and your name on it, and it's helpful when you have nothing, because sometimes we know at the border, they may take your passport, so you virtually have nothing with your name or face on it. So you may look for a community ID program, so at least you have something that shows your name and ID, so you can, for example, enroll your children into school or something of that nature.
Okay, thank you. And my next question is for Attorney Stewart. We're going back to zip codes. When it comes to, I know the insurance does charge you a little bit more depending on which area you live in. But does it apply also, let's say I get into an accident, then my car is totaled, okay? And the insurance is doing an estimate. Let's say my car, if I live in Windermere, my car, they will give me $30,000, but if I live on Pine Hills, they'll give me only $20,000. How does that make sense, especially if people in Pine Hills are paying more for insurance than someone lives in Windermere?
I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that. Now, it sounds like you've had some experience that practice is going on, and that doesn't sound right at all. But I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that of that happening. And I'm not involved in the adjustment and how much they pay on particular claims when there's an accident or not, or what assessment they make as to, we should only be paying this much on this claim versus this much on that claim. I don't really get into that decision. So I'm sorry, I can't really answer your question as much, and I apologize for that. But that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, we are the #1 auto insurer in the state, so I mean we're the largest now. So, yeah.
But that is taking care of everything up front, so we don't have to wait for progressive.
Yeah.
Take care of it. So the guy who came to my house, that's what he said. He said, well, your car is worth $30,000 or whatever, but he's willing to give me $24,000 because my area is really hot for accidents or whatever it might be. I'm like, well, we're already paying more, so it makes no sense to me.
So you're saying they're just going to total the car out? Yeah, and right now, because of this more finance, the supply chain issues, repairing cars, it's just too, they can't get the parts, and two, even if they can get the parts, the prices are so much increase. And if you'll notice with some of your cars, if you go look at the value of your used car, a few months ago, my Jeep was worth more than when I paid for it 4 years ago. So the cars have just become so much more valuable, and they can't get the replacement parts. So that's why they're totaling all the cars out and not even repairing.
So that's one of the main reasons now we see most of the, we see a lot of auction. They kind of not really too active on the auction because most of these cars, they need parts. And then the parts cannot be found or they cannot manufacture what we call it, parts. So they have to kind of slow everybody down. Now you need to get a new car, or if you have a good car, just keep it.
Yeah, no, they'll want to harvest the car. If the car's been in an accident, they can total it and try to harvest the parts out of it that, obviously if it's damaged, they can't.
But the percentage of the recovery they can get on part is higher if they total the car, so they can get a better distribution of these parts.
Potentially. But I'm not involved in those decisions,
No,
and
no,
I'm
no.
not trying to, like, that I have any firsthand knowledge
Well,
of business practices of insurance
we
companies.
understand it's a
You know,
circle.
I'm just, but
Yeah,
but
it's a
that-
circle. We understand what's going on. It's I work on both sides in the past. I work as with attorney that do defense, and I work with attorney that go after. So it's a circle. So right now, basically, we are at the end of that circle. So basically, everything the other new and all the old one that was out there that are out there, they just want them to use for parts.
All right, I'll make a quick comment and then I'll let her ask the question. If you have two questions, just ask the two questions. If you're going to direct them to different attorneys, they're going to wait. One's going to speak so we can help move this a little bit faster. Just if you have two questions, ask them at the same time and you can tell which attorney you're asking the question to. So afterwards they can answer the question that you guys
Yes,
asked.
please direct with the question so we can take more.
and I will defer all immigration questions to Ann. So just let's.
Okay, question number one is for Attorney Stewart. My question is, does the, what's the word I'm looking for? Ask the people that the insurance companies are represent, do we have any type of right when an insurance company I've been paying for the past 7 years because I have one accident and that insurance company decided they want to just drop me out of the blue, and for 7 years I've been paying the insurance, I have no issue, good, and there has been no problem, but now that I have this one single accident and I've been dropped, does ask the people have any, that's just that? Do we have any say right to that aspect? And my question for Attorney Pierreville is that for us who are here in the United States, who has petitioned for family members back home, we are fully aware of the crisis right now that's going on in our homeland country, Haiti. What can we do to help or to expedite or to ask for any type of expedite because of this crisis? For example, someone who has babies that have to hide under the bed and having to listen to gunshots and things to that aspect. We're talking about less than 5 years old babies. What are some things, and we have those cases in immigrations for the past 7 years, some of them 10 years, all they're waiting for is an appointment. What can we do, us, as a people, or as a group, as a people, or all together? What are some suggestions you have for all of us? Because there's many, thousands of us that are trying to bring our family here legally through petitions and unable to, and just been waiting. Thank you.
Okay, you want to start, Hans, and then, or...
Okay. So for your particular situation and for family petitions, there is a limited amount that is given each year. That's why it's taking so long. So depending on your status as the person that petitioned, whether you're a green card holder or a U.S. citizen, and then who you petitioned for, your spouse, your mother, father, child, or brother or sister, it's a limited amount. I know there's a visa bulletin. I checked recently for a client that had brother and sister. They applied in 2013. They are currently reviewing applications from 2007. So your application has not even reached the person's desk that's gonna send the visa appointment. And unfortunately, there's not much that we can do individually. What we can do as a community is to come together and lobby for immigration reform. This is a policy issue. Congress needs new laws to help immigration. It's not just Haiti. Many countries are going through this, and it takes years to get an answer, and you virtually cannot do nothing as an individual. There's no process to ask for expedite and say, you know, for these reasons, you know, fear of persecution, that it's not available because those laws weren't created to allow that. We don't have access to that. So unless Congress changes these laws, allows for more petitions, allows for more visa dates, there's nothing you can do. But I will say the visa bulletin right now, it looks like it takes, depending on the application, but depending on your status, it could take anywhere from 10 to 15 years to receive that appointment date, unfortunately, and there's nothing we can do at the moment unless Congress changes the laws.
Okay, Attorney Stewart?
My answer to your question will be much shorter. Yes, I mean, they can. Unless you are able to prove that somehow the insurance company is dropping people or you for an illegal reason, you know, for example, based on discrimination, yeah, they can drop you. They're a business. They don't have to insure you. Now, if you make a claim, they have a duty to deal with you in good faith and fair dealing, and there are potential things that you could sue them for. They call it bad faith litigation if the insurance company is not acting properly during the course of handling your claim. But in terms of if they drop you, yeah, no, they can drop you unless there's some illegal reason going on or they're violating state regulations as to how much they're trying to charge you or what the reason is that they're dropping you, they can drop you.
Great. Now, as we see that we went all over the concerned questions.
One more question.
Now, we are flying with time. The time is the essence, so we have to...
I have one more question back here. And
I have one too, so...
Okay.
Before we take any questions, so basically as we went through our financial literacy month, one of the biggest issues we have is money, how we plan our money, how we budget our money, how we have objective with our money, how we're gonna see our money for our future. Now, with just a little thing, just one little area, which is the insurance and immigration, we just covered almost an hour. Now, can you imagine if you were not to take a time at least once a month to sit down with your family, to talk about these issues, to plan, to have an objective? So if we fail to do that, when these things happen, it's double problem. It's double, we call it double jeopardy. So you have, it's double. So when you don't plan for something and then something happens, it's worse. So now on the next segment, before we take the next questions, we're gonna talk about a state. We're talking about insurance and immigration. Wait when we start talking about estate planning. Wait when we start talking about trust. Because when we talk about that, we're gonna be here all night. All right, we're going to take the next question.
Yes, I guess this is more like of a general question. I guess since we got two lawyers here, I've always wanted to know for my personal and also for my son, what are my options if I get, because that's one of my worst fears, get over by the police. And do I have to, because you know, you look on social media, they tell you that you don't have to give your driver's license, you don't have to answer no questions, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. I'm not trying to get shot, so one of the things I'm really terrified is being pulled over, and then, you know, as soon as I get pulled over, it's like I forget how to speak English, I forget how to talk, I'm so nervous. How should I behave to, I guess, stop by the officer? Is it that, do I have to answer his questions? Do I have to hand him over my papers? What are my options?
Who wants to take that on?
Well, I guess I did some criminal defense work, so I guess I'm going to accept this for a little bit. So there was a lot in there, and that was kind of very vague because every individual circumstance as to why an officer has stopped you can trigger, well, do they have the right to do it or not to do it? The bottom line is even if the officer is illegally stopping you, if you don't comply with their requests, you could still end up getting arrested. So you start they just walk up to you and for no reason start harassing you and demand you turn over their ID and you don't, and they arrest you for resisting and they bring you to jail, you can end up spending 30 days in jail before they drop you, before they drop the charges against you. So the reality is when you are interacting with law enforcement, when anyone is interacting with law enforcement, if I'm interacting with law enforcement, hands where they can see them, I'll answer the questions. Now, if they start asking something ridiculous, take your shirt off or, but yeah, no, let me see your ID. Even if they don't have a legal reason to do it, if you don't give it to them, you could end up getting arrested for resisting without violence, even though they may not have had a lawful reason to ask of that. So you'll want to keep your hands visible. You want to comply with their requests. And their orders, we won't call it requests, orders, because that's how it's not like, oh, well, sir, can you please put your hands on the steering wheel? No, they're going to be yelling at you and using a firm voice with the hand on potentially a hand sitting right on a gun. And it's not a request, it's basically an order. It is an order. So you want to comply. Respectful, hands where they can see them, and comply, because even if they're illegally doing the orders, it's better to fight about that later than be on the wrong end of it, which we see in the news sometimes, what happens. So, sorry, it's hard to go into a fact specific, but and unfortunately, should it be like that? No, but you see what happens on the very bad end of when some of these interactions go wrong, even when the officer had no reason to stop. And I've represented people in some of these circumstances. So unfortunately, that's where we are in the world, and that's at least what I would say. Other people may have a different opinion, but that's what I would say.
Our next question, I believe.
Once again, thank you very much for doing this. Very informative, very enlightening to the community. We still have a community watching online also. This question, probably the first question for you, Attorney Prevail. Do you know anything about the law immigration just passed to give work visa to people who are in Haiti to come over here? Can you, I didn't have to take the time to do the research. Can you enlighten us if you know about what it requires, what do we have to do, what are some of the requirements, so that some people who's watching can share with their family member? And I still have a brother in Haiti, so maybe that's a good opportunity for him to be here. So that's question number one. And question number two, maybe the two of you can answer it, particularly Attorney Stewart, since you're going to run for a judge. One of the major issues that we encounter in the Haitian community is discipline children. This question has to do with dependency. So a lot of times, maybe we don't know how to discipline our kids, and then all of a sudden, the DCF came, they took the children away from us, and all of a sudden that creates not only a family problem, but a financial issue, because the poor woman is working at Disney, have a strict schedule. Now she has to take parental classes, all these different things that remove her from her job, and that creates a whole lot of financial stress in those families. So the main question is, how should we discipline our kids? Is whooping the butt a problem with the law?
Whip. That's the question. Should we whip or should we whip?
Yeah, should we whoop the butt or no? I know no. That's too straight.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, and I should know the answer to this, and all judges are not all powerful, know every single thing. Corporal punishment, the act of disciplining your child with physical force. In the state of Florida, I think it still is legal. Now, obviously, you can't whip them or beat them, and if you go too far, you're going to end up getting arrested or potentially or brought into dependency courtroom. So I would say avoid
So
it.
how do we do it? That's the question. That's
Yeah, how do you do it?
basically
I mean, you're asking
not and how do we do it?
how much force can you apply before it
Come up like it's a legal issue.
that, you know, I don't know the answer to that, so I don't want to tell you, well, you can just do a tap or use a paddle, and that's just, I honestly don't know the answer to that, and I'm sorry I can't.
This becomes a big dilemma in the Haitian community, knowing that back home we used to whoop our kids, and all of a sudden here we have that fear, and the kids are trying to manipulate us, saying that, well, if we beat them, they're gonna call the cops, and all of a sudden this year show up, and then they make the issue larger, bigger, and this they make it seems like this is abuse, and in reality it's not abuse, it's discipline, and what I encounter, I'm talking to the future judge right here, and what I encounter also is all of a sudden the person doesn't speak English properly, and they arrested him through the dependency court. They're going through a case plan and all that. All of a sudden they having criminal records and all this stuff over just one whooping. And we have a lot of teenagers, I mean those kids and teenagers, when you whoop them, they say you did something else, you abused them. And as a judge, I think something must be said. I must be brought in front of the judges. I must be brought in front of the lawyers to defend that case, because a lot of Haitian parents, I grew up with a whooping. And I thank God for the whooping. I thank God the whooping brought me here. Without the whooping, I would not stand here. But we don't know how to do it. We're afraid of doing it. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? And we know Florida law says it's okay, but I'm afraid. And when they call the cop, I get arrested. So it's a crazy thing.
The kids these days, they don't have, the teacher are afraid of them, the parents are afraid of them, but they're not afraid with.
Yeah. They're not afraid of law enforcement,
No.
but I, as a parent, I'm afraid of law enforcement. I hate to open this can of worm, but
Now the second question, and for the enlightenment on the HB visa.
So I want to touch on both questions. So going on the child abuse, first I want to say we should, not just for child abuse, but when you're dealing with law enforcement and potentially ICE, if you are undocumented, create a family plan. If you are picked up by ICE, who is going to get your children? Who is legal guardianship of your child? Does your child now go into foster care? Create a plan of what you want to happen to your children if you are picked up by ICE. This is very, very important. We see it all the time. You get picked up at work. Nobody picks up your child from school. The child goes now into the DCF system, and now your family is fighting to get that child back. And sometimes it takes months, you know, for that child to get back into family or into, you know, church or friends, and they're in a children's home. But if you had a legal guardian, they would have went to the legal guardian. So think of that. Second, as a Haitian American, as a social worker, I want us as the Haitian community to think about different ways to discipline our children. Now, I understand our tradition, I understand culture, and that is very important. However, we are in a different country, and so things that may be okay in our country, things that we may have grown with, they've changed a little bit. And so we have to realize this and understand no bounty on top. That's okay. Nobody looks at you crazy. But if you are beating your child, if your child has marks on their body, if your child gets whooped every day, that is abuse. And we have to come to terms with that. You know, sometimes it's misinformed, and it's just one whooping. But sometimes it is continuous abuse from that child. And then we have to think about what else is going on in your life and that child's life. Violence does not always have to be the first thing. You know, I remember the first time my parents did not whoop me. And I was more sad that they didn't whoop me because I was so ashamed that I had made them so mad they didn't even want to whoop me. And they told me to go to my room and to think about what I did. To me, that was more powerful because I realized I had disappointed them. Now, I'm not saying that's going to work with everybody. Your child is stealing, your child's not doing well in school. No, and I understand our culture. However, abuse and beating and hitting your child for not picking up a shirt, childs that are scared to look you in the eyes, that affects the child emotionally, that affects how they interact with jilting children, that affects how they deal with their teachers. So we have to think about that in the community when we think about mental health. Sometimes we automatically think, oh, the child's just bad. And in reality, the child may have some problems. Did you ask the child what happened today? Did you ask the child, did somebody abuse you? Sometimes the teachers are wrong. The teacher is telling you every day your child is doing something wrong in the classroom, and you whoop your child every day, and the teacher is the one that's harming your child. So we have to create communication within the families. We have to, as a community, find different ways to discipline our children because, yes, dependency court, discipline, the Haitian community as a unit, we are strong, we are very intelligent, we are very hardworking. All the Haitians I know, 4.0s. All the children can be getting the same, but then we see discipline, we see suspension, we see different issues. The whooping's not working. So what batimunu? For what? It's not helping. Because after a while, after a certain age, that discipline does not work on that child. That child knows, what on coup de trois, quatre fois? That's it. It's not effective. So we have to think of more effective things for our children. And then we have to think of this before they turn 16. Now they know they got 2 years until they're out of your house.
Not even 16 anymore. I will say, not to really interrupt, I have to interject because we're going on time too. Middle school. Mm-hmm. The moment the child step out in elementary school, and now I'm a proud parent of a 13, 14 years old girl, okay? She just made her National Junior Honor Society for third year in a row. My son was the same, going all the way from kindergarten all the way to high school and international baccalaureate program. What I have seen, I have been here in Central Florida for the past 25 years, okay? The main thing start on elementary school. When they hit the third grade, fourth grade, the discipline level is different. You have to develop strategies. And by the time they make it to middle school is for me as a mother, right now, speaking to you here, a servant of God, I'm going to tell you, a lot of prayer. A lot of prayer. Every day, morning, midday, and night. Why? Because in the middle school, that's when the sponge is about to take the form for the society. That's where they're grabbing everything. Anything that you're not doing at home, they're getting it over there. So you better make sure you have that line of communication open 24/7. And when I say 24/7, 24/7, that line of communication needs to stay open. Your children go to school, during the school, when they are at lunch, if the school allows for them to use cell phone, because some schools do, some schools don't. Like my daughter called me, telling me what's happening in a classroom. The principal have to intervene. And when the principal intervene, then they probably potentially gonna call the officers. I don't raise my kids like that. My kids is not like that. But in the school, it's happening. So they're picking stuff in the school. You know what you're doing with your children. You know what you're doing. But what are they picking up? What are they bringing home to their little brothers, their little sisters? Especially if you have one in middle school, you have one in elementary school. Before the one go in elementary school, before the one that's in elementary school going to middle school, he know more than what was in middle school. So we have to be practical. We have to keep the line of communication open. Now, because the time is about to lapse on us, so we were talking about the visa. Pastor wants you to enlighten us on that.
Okay, So this is the H-2A, Temporary Agricultural Worker Visa. So this is a program where a farmer, when they can't find enough workers for their farm, they can use a list that Department of Labor makes for different countries, and they can try to get workers from that country. So Haiti has just been added to that list. So this is a visa program so you can come to the U.S., stay where they provide your housing, and work temporarily. It's usually a year, 10 months to a year. This program is through the employer. So the farm owner, the worker, they don't have enough workers. They're going to apply for a certification to show they have the need. They have tried to get U.S. workers. There's no U.S. workers. Then they may send a recruiter. They may put an ad on Facebook, online, or on their websites. And then you contact them. They are the ones that are sending that visa application for you to come. Now, when you come, it's coming to work and to leave. It is not permanent. There's no way to stay. It is to come. They give you housing. Sometimes it's on their property. Sometimes it may be a hotel or a motel. They pick you up from there. They take you to where you need to work, take you back, and then when it's over, you can leave. So it's just to work on farms when there's a lack of U.S. workers to work on this. But this is not something that you can apply for yourself. I'm interested in working somewhere. You send the application, and then they find the farm for you. No. Usually these farm owners have recruiters that go to the country or have websites, and they send you the information that you need to know, and then you can apply through them. But it's not something that you can do by yourself. But yes, this is the H-2A, Temporary Agriculture Working Program.
Now, what about the professional, let's say those businesses that want to register with the Department of Labor? Because I was doing a little research the other day about the professionals that have big businesses that want to apply for those professionals so they get certified with the Department of Labor. Is it the same, we're on the same RAMA, or is...
Yeah, so it's the same type of process. This is for example, maybe for an engineer or a doctor. Again, it's through the employer. You will be hired by the employer. The employer now sends your application off. There's a shortage of U.S. worker. You specialize in whatever your degree is in, and now you come to the U.S. to work. But you need an employer to sponsor your application.
I have a question. But either one of you guys can opine on it. It's actually a situation that happened with me and at the daycare I pick up my daughter and my son. I'm usually the person that picks up my son and my daughter. I remember last Tuesday, I was there picking them up, and usually because the door of the daycare is like right there, so I usually leave the driver door open and walk right on and press on the doorbell so the person can come and because it's my phone that I use to sign the kids in and out. So usually my car door is open and it's like right there. So as I was giving the daycare director my card to charge the card, so they were letting the kids out to me, so my daughter ran to the car. So because I know my car is on, I called her back to come because she has a play car in my backyard she usually drives, so she went to the driver's side. I said, Zuri, come back. On multiple occasions, she's laughing as if a joke. I'm like, Zuri, you have to come back. So after multiple attempts, she didn't come, and I saw my son now start moving over there, so I know automatically it's dangerous, so I'll give her a spank so she doesn't do that again. The conversation I had ensuing, because my card was still with the daycare director, that's what, to me, made the situation as if like it's so illegal of what I just done. She said, you know it's illegal what you did in front of me, and as a daycare director, it's wrong what you just did. I said, I just disciplined my child from a dangerous situation, because next time, or if I'm not even looking, she had gone there, car is on, and she ran the car into your daycare, I could be arrested, and multiple things can ensue. And all of a sudden, it kind of like makes sense to me, in a sense like, okay, I'm a well-educated parent dealing with somebody that's, to me, that's overstepping her boundaries in overprotecting, when I'm the one that's doing all the protection that there is in the world to the kid. And that's a misunderstanding that a lot of parents that are, one, doesn't have the education that I have, two, have a language barrier, three, that does not understand a lot of the things that's going on. So you guys as lawyers, what are the best way to actually educate somebody, one, to how to discipline properly, two, to also understand the nuances? Because one of the issue I also see is the language. Your kid speaks English, you always try to speak English with them, you're speaking with an accent. It's like when you're disciplining, it's funny. It's nothing serious. So how do we, as a community, deals with this complex idea? Because we either discipline them or they either end up in jail and they become the burden of society. So how do we find the right balance?
Ann?
So there's many things here. I will say one, so you said this was at the daycare. A daycare provider has a duty to report child abuse. Now to you, that may not have been child abuse. It's subjective to her. To her, she may have thought that was harsh, it was too much for the age of the child, for the act of what was happening. To her, she has the duty to report child abuse if she believes it's child abuse. That's her duty. She can get sued if she does not report child abuse. So that she may have just been hypersensitive in that instance. Then for you, there's not a wrong or right way of disciplining your child. You have to do what is best for your child. Excessive abuse is never tolerated. We don't want children to be abused. We don't want children afraid of their parents or authority figures. However, we understand there's a time and place to discipline our child. You just have to be aware of that, as a social worker, as a child care provider, as a teacher. They have duties to report child abuse. That's up to them if they believe that is abuse. Like you said, the language barrier. You don't know what your children are now saying to other people. You need to have conversations with your children to understand. I will say, unfortunately, I had these conversations, but they were good because I understand. After I was whooped, my parents told me why they whooped me. You did something that I did not like. Not whoop and then slam the door and not whoop jura timuna. Explain, it's not okay for you to do this, and you were disciplined for this. So we have to make sure we're having that communication, please. Now, also, we talk about the future and what we want for our children. We can't just say, if we don't beat our kids, they're gonna go to jail, because it's not one or the other. We have to do, like we said, strategies. It's not the only way to discipline your child, to work with your child. And we are a community, we are a village. The church I grew up in, anybody, one could whoop me, but anybody could encourage me, can tell me right or wrong. If you see someone's child doing something wrong or doing something that's not okay, talk to that child as a community. Don't look down on that child or that parent. But then we need programming for our children. As parents, you can do so much, but me, somebody that's younger, educated as well, maybe I can talk to the child. There's so many programs, even in Orange County, Orlando, for young children, programs to help them get scholarships, programs to help them understand mentoring, professional development, financial literacy. Let's pay our children these programs so they can see different authority figures, so they can understand different things that are happening. But child abuse is a very difficult thing to deal with. And I know from a cultural standpoint, what we may think is okay and what we did in our country is very different. I'm going to be honest, in the United States. It's two different things. So yes, you can discipline your child. However, you have to be mindful of child abuse and what is too much.
Definitely, one of the key points that you said on this last segment is that the authority. We need to teach our children authority, understand you as the parent, you have the ultimate say. You have the authority over them. So, because a lot of time, kids go to school, the teacher have the authority. Because the way you deal with them, they go and tell what's happening in the house, and the teacher's grooming them, and then behind your back, and then before you know it, that teacher have more authority than you as the parent. So this afternoon, we were trying to shift into a financial literacy forum where we wanted to cover a wealth information about insurance and also about legals. And of course, we went through the route of immigration, because why not? We have an immigration attorney in the house, so we take the opportunity to do that. Now, I had promised we were going to talk about some sort of estate planning and trust at the end of the closing, and I know Attorney Stewart have a wealth information and asset and risk management, and when we're talking about estate planning, that's one of the big parts. So before we do a closure, I would like for you to just wrap it in a way that how we get ready to get, because Attorney Pierreville said something. We need to make provision for our children. Provision, we are immigrants in this country, anything can happen. Do we have a power of attorney? Do we have a directive legal document that, let's say if we get injured and then the only people that we know is a church member, does this person have any authority to say something for us, to take our children? So all these documents have to be in place. So with that being said, I would like for Attorney Stewart to take me home on the estate planning as we're talking about risk management, how we structure this provision in estate planning. We talk about the insurance, the coverage. Now, when we building that estate planning, what is the core that we need?
To have a plan. I mean, it's and to have it down, written, and complied with all the legal requirements. Now, I do not do estate planning, so Michael, does it need to have 2 signatures that are done under oath and the witnesses are there at the same time? I'm not sure of what the specific requirements are, but I can tell you, if you don't have a will, there's this thing in Florida called intestate succession, where the state of Florida already designates how your assets are going to be distributed if you die, and it goes by statute. And it may be going to a person that you do not want your money or assets to go to. So you need to have a plan. You either need to have a will, or if you have enough assets, a trust set up where you spell out how you want the things that you have on this earth distributed when you leave this earth. And that's the main thing, is to have the foresight, to have the plan, and then make sure it is complied with. And I mean, nowadays you can go online and get wills. That is easy enough to do, but you want to have a plan. And end of life care. If you're in a coma and you want those decisions made ahead of time, because well, what happens if these are the set of circumstances? Do you still want life support? You don't want other people to have to make that decision, or to put them in the place where they have to make that decision, or have the decision completely taken away from them. So the big thing is to plan ahead and have that plan set out.
People that own properties, particularly in the state of Florida, we know something named probate, big time. So provision for probate. What can homeowners, people that own properties, what are we going to assure about things that we have that's not in order? So what do we recommend for them to do to avoid the asset they have don't go to probate?
A trust. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, actually, about, and like I said, I don't do estates and trusts and wills.
General.
But generally, my understanding is if you establish a trust, that takes it out of probate. And if you have a will, then it goes into the courtroom, and then the judge determines whether or not it's a valid will and and how the assets are distributed. Whereas if you have a trust, that's basically all set out beforehand, and it's done outside that, and you'll have a trustee that distributes the assets. And I guess there's ways people could potentially challenge them, but that goes way above what we're talking about here. But yes, that is the one main benefit of the trust, is it keeps it out of the probate court, and you have a trustee that's established that distributes your assets according to the plan that you have laid out. And that's what the trust is. It's a plan, just like the will.
Again, we go again and again and again. We need a plan. The objective is to have a plan. And as a kingdom-minded individual, we need to have a plan. So since we go, I believe we all set. Pastor, I don't know if you have any other questions, and then.
Well, I'm dealing with this probate issue right now. I'm just in the middle of it, trying to figure it out. So it's all foreign to me because my father-in-law passed, and all of a sudden the house did not have nobody. This house right now, there is no living. There's nobody who's living named on that house, and almost like. I don't even know how to contact, we don't even know how to contact the mortgage company. When we contact them, it's like, we don't want to talk to you, we don't know you, who are you? So we're trying to figure out who's the insurance company. We don't even know who's the insurance company, and the roof needs to be done. So it's a total mess, and since I'm dealing with that issue, so it's a wake-up call for me. It's a wake-up call for me to start putting everything into a trust, into hire trustee, because you never know what may happen. So I really encourage, if you have, for some of us who are building wealth. For example, myself, just to play with the system, there's one house on my name, one house in my wife's name. So then if the two of us die right now, it's a major issue without a true trust. So I strongly encourage a trust, which I'm working on myself, because that house of my father-in-law, it's a typical issue of what can happen to many of us who are trying to be financially stable. Let's say you have all that investment. You invest in Coca-Cola, you invest T-Mobile, you invest in AT&T, and all of a sudden you die. And what happened to all this investment? You have little kids, you have children, you have family members who could benefit, but because there was not true planning, if there's something we can leave this room today, is planning with capital letters. Planning with capital letters. Spend the $300, $400, $500 to do the planning, doing the trust, will save your family member, will save a whole lot of headache, because we're dealing with this house. We don't know what to do. We hire an attorney. Now it's a whole lot of money again. So do you have any attorney? Do you have any?
And that's not one of the research that I did in regards to probate. Do you know over 30% gonna go away from that asset?
Oh, really?
Over 30%. That's gonna, the cost and all this. That's the commotion of the asset, the commotion of the money that's in this asset.
Yeah.
It's gonna be 30% that's gonna go away. You're not
30%?
Over 30%. Over 30%. And he's an attorney, you know, whenever there's a claim, anything that's go with an asset, we're talking about 30% and up.
Oh, wow.
So now, with that being said, you're here today, of viewers, we need to understand, we need to have a plan. From the moment you start generating income, you need to have a plan. I have composed a package here for those of you that are here. If you're interested, you want to have a consultation, you're free to have a consultation. And then feel free, review the booklet. There's one study that is on it, that's approval with the pastor. It's basically what pastor teaches today in his sermon. It's in here too. And we also have a prayer on this package for you too. And it's a well-composed package. Different ministry have worked this package and put it through. So as a servant, I share it with the pastor. And I believe that since we work over 3 months, and we should have something to do or practice. So this is very practical. If you do need help, it's free of charge, please. I'm a servant. I serve in this house. If you do need help, please feel free to reach any of us here in this panel about what we talk about today, and then we'll be able to assist you in any way. If we cannot help you, we will refer it out. Now, the last word, we know Attorney Stewart is running for office. how can we help you? What the message that you have as we here in this congregation before we close?
The message is vote. It's your most important. People have fought and died for it, and people are still fighting for their voting rights here in this country. Vote on or before August 23rd, 2022. Circuit court judges are one of the most important positions. Most likely, if you're going to have an interaction face-to-face with your government, it is going to be in a circuit courtroom. Hopefully not during that probate process, but lawsuits over $30,000, felonies, domestic relations, divorce, child custody, alimony, injunctions, complex business suits, delinquency, dependency. They're very important jobs. They're too important to have other people decide these positions for us. If we want the most qualified people that are dedicating to serving our community in these positions, and I think when you look into my background with both the civil and criminal experience, I am the most qualified person for this job. Thank you for giving me the opportunity today to talk. I really appreciate it. It's a wonderful panel. You can find me on Choose Stew, choosestew.com, Choose Stew on Instagram, Choose Stew on Facebook. But get the name out, spread the word, and like I said, vote.
Thank you, Attorney Stewart.
I have one question for Attorney Stewart. I have one question.
But wait, there's more.
No, just one question. What do you have on your platform as a future judge that's running that is specifically targeted to the minority community that you're amongst today that helps? Because we know the minority here in this country gets marginalized in the judicial system. So what do you specifically have that would help enhance our community, not continue down the rabbit hole that we continue going on, so we can give you our vote?
Well, thank you for that question. So let me start with this. Judges can't run on platforms. I can't come out and say, I'm for this, I'm against this. If you vote for me, there will be no mandatory minimum sentences in my courtroom. You can't, for example. You can't come out and say that. You have to be a fair and impartial administrator of the law, listen to each case on a case-by-case basis, and make decisions. You can't pre-commit yourself to things. Now, what I think would differentiate me from not just the person I'm running against, but from a lot of people is I have experience in the public defender system. I know what it's like when you walk into a courtroom and you don't have any power, or the person that's presiding over the case doesn't think you have any money, and how people get treated. I've seen that firsthand and witnessed that and defended people in those situations. And I think that perspective is a unique perspective that I'm going to be able to bring to the position that most people are not going to have that perspective because they only work for high-powered corporate clients or different areas. So I think that's going to be the main thing, is that I've worked in positions and I've defended people and been in these courtrooms defending cases where I represented persons of color, minority groups, Hispanic, African American, all races, and see how they get treated. And I've seen that from the side of defending the case, and it would bring me a unique perspective to look at if I'm presiding over the case, when considering all the factors that need to be decided in ruling on a case, whether it's in a family case, whether it's in a criminal case, not as much civil. Civil is just an exchange of money. But in these other cases, these judges have a lot of power and a lot of influence on family and in criminal. And to be able to have seen what it's like and know and evaluate all the circumstances, or to listen to someone's circumstances, like Pastor Ernest had been talking about it, what it was like to come from the culture and why it's different. You want someone that's going to be open-minded to that and will have heard that before, and not just dismiss it out of hand because, well, from my cultural perspective, that's entirely wrong, and I'm not going to make a comment one way or the other as to whether it's right or wrong or the extent of the force. But, have you done that in the past, and will you bring that to the position? And I think that's important. I think that's something I'm going to do that other people don't have that experience. They have not seen that firsthand, and I think that's something unique for me that I'm going to do that other people cannot.
Thank you, Attorney Stewart. Thank you. Attorney Pierreville, last word.
So a few things. I just want to inform you about the work that I'm doing and upcoming events. So tomorrow is International Workers' Day. Farm Worker Association and many other organizations that support immigrants is having a march and rally at Lake Eola at 2 p.m. We want all immigrants, all workers, all people that support housing stability, immigration, racial justice to come out so we can bring awareness to immigration reform. We have to change the system. The system we have right now is not helping immigrants. It was not built to help immigrants. So we need a change in that system. That's tomorrow, 2 p.m. at Lake Eola. And now I want to give you information about where I'm at. So I work with Florida Legal Services on Mondays and Wednesdays from 9 to 12 p.m. I'm at Orange Blossom Family Health. You can come as a walk-in or schedule an appointment through them so you can see me, also be seen by a medical professional. Tuesdays, I'm in Apopka at Farm Worker Association from 5 to 7 p.m. I take in walk-ins. If you have a legal question, if you need food, if you need clothes, you can come there. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we created a Haitian task force in partnership with the Consulate of Haiti to provide resources to immigrants that are just arriving. So if you need food, clothes, if you want to know where you can learn English, you need help finding a job, legal services, you can come there. We are at Church of Valley Blessing Church. I will give information so you have the address, and we're there to support the incoming Haitians and anybody that's new to the area so you know what resources are available. And then if you just need me, you have a legal question, you can always email or call my office and schedule a consultation.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is new hope. This is new hope. We have a wealth of resources in this community, and the New Hope always assure they come in the house to present. And Pastor Ernst Terville, we don't know how much we appreciate the ministry with your First Lady Colleen that allowed this platform. Brother Peterson, you're so awesome, and this administration to allow this program to go through, to make provision for this program with our pastor. The IT team, the visual teams, we thank you, we appreciate you. You guys doing an awesome job. Make sure this word does not just stay here in this building, but it go out there worldwide. So if you are watching, or if you had the chance to get this on your phone, please make sure you share it. Particularly, please share it within group. You never know who this message, who this information might be touched. So for another time, I hope Pastor Terville give us another opportunity to present again next year. This is a provision God had made. Last year, I prayed that I wanted to present a cause de finance and a financial literacy. I did not know what was going to happen, but God made provision. Here I am. I participate with Brother Peterson for a whole entire 90 days, almost 3 months we went in the process. I prayed about it, I wanted to do it, and I did not know how. I was on television and radio, but I needed to do it in another way, in the house of God, and God did make provision. And then thank you, Pastor Terville, First Lady, the whole entire staff. Thank you for allowing the community to come in this house to bless the community.
Well, thank you. On behalf of the church, we want to say thank you, Attorney Stewart, thank you, Attorney Preville, thank you, Amir Land, for putting this together. I mean, we are excited with information. When we see information, we sound like a kid who always want a cake. So, so thank you once again. And this is not the first time, so we cannot wait next year to have another great month of financial literacy. And New Hope is a community church. New Hope is there for the community. We're widely open. hey, we pray that you choose New Hope as one of your sites coming up in the future months, that we don't mind opening this year to have a site here where you could come one day a week too. So I'm just throwing that in the air, you know.
Our title this year was The Time Is Now, We Are Limitless. Our title this year was, we know New Hope, December 31st, we did Limitless. We are limitless. So our title for my financial literacy month was The Time Is Now, We Are Limitless.
Yeah, I must say that in Creole for pour moun k'ap gade online yo, so ou ka ba yon ti information en créole parce que gen quelques moun qui réfugié qui fait vini ba yon ti information on de qui ça que ou fait ba li en créole et puis qui côté qui ou ka joindre nous brefement.
Okay, so nom c'est Anne Pierreville, je suis un avocat à Florida Legal Services. Lundi à mercredi, 9 du matin, pour midi, dans la clinique Orange Blossom Family Health. Adresse là c'est 232 North Orange Blossom Trail, là dans Orlando, et pas trop loin côté nous là. So nous venons là pour nous voir docteur, yo même si vous pas gain assurance, ou ka venir dans docteur ça, même si vous pas gain status, ou ka venir dans docteur dans clinique ça pour voir moun, ou ka venir voir tout. Mardi 5 pour 7 dans PAPCA, dans Farm Worker Association de Florida, là pour bailler aide, yo gen manger là au café Community ID. So si vous pas au café en licence ou pas un passeport, ou ka vinn là faire un ID si vous te voulez yon. Yo gen manger, yo gen ride pour moun si vous besoin aide dans ça. Kounya chaque mardi à jeudi consulaire de Haïti, yo ouvri dans l'église pour aider haïtiens et immigrants qui fait entrer dans le pays pour yo ka joindre aide légale, moi-même là comme avocat pour yo ka joindre aide pour yo apprendre anglais, aide pour yo joindre travail, ça c'est si ou ka travail dans le pays ou ka yo ka aide joindre travail.
TPS.
Oui, aider pour si vous besoin aide pour ouvrir un carnet, nous avons une self-help credit union qui là et on pile l'autre service, yo toujours gen manger là tout si vous besoin aide là. Mais objectif de Haitian Tax Force c'est pour aider haïtiens comprendre service qui ouvre pour yo and resource nous gain dans Orlando pour connaître qui côté pour aller si vous avez un problème, si vous avez une aide pour connaître qui moun nous ka relais, pour connaître en pile dans application ça yo pas même demander corps. So nous avons besoin de payer $500,000 pour moun faire une application TPS, application $50. Ça fait sens. Moi-même fais le gratis. So, toute information ça pour nous connaître, ma ba nous numéro moins, office a ouvri lundi pour vendredi, 9 du matin pour 6 heures, 407 801 70 52.
Bali encore.
407 801 70 52.
On l'autre fois encore.
407 801 70 52.
Yeah.
So ça c'est numéro office moi nous relais qui ton message m'a relais nous back nous ka web moi même m'aller côté communauté à dim pour aller côté m'hier m'ba toujours dans office là dans pile different place parce que me connais nous pas gain transportation me connais gain fois nous gain problème so besoin aller dans place me connais n'a ka vini place me connais qui ka bail nous et tout parce que moi même seul nous une bagage n'a besoin me fait légal même connais nous gain l'autre problème l'autre bagage nous besoin
problème social.
Exactly. Nous besoin nous mettre tout ensemble pour les nous moi-même ka dire au ka là pour la voilà. So c'est ça là pour faire dans la communauté pour nous comprendre tout service qui gagne et pour nous joindre aide nous besoin.
Bravo. Amen. Bon bagay.
Nous disons merci avec avocat et Michael Stewart qui a couru pour candidat et Secret Court là nous disons merci nous disons merci les partants de ça qui parlait là et ben nous disons merci et la couru pour poste et Secret Court là so il dit nous voter.
Amen.
So nous connaissons pas qu'à faire partie, so nous seulement même Jean même tout pas qu'à faire partie. Il pas une plateforme, c'est la courir pour juge, so il pas une plateforme, juge pas courir en bas aucune plateforme, c'est monde qui pi qualifié, c'est lui même qui passait, c'est lui même qui servi. So c'est ça il t'a mentionné dans et commencement programme nan, et puis à la fin programme nan tout, nous remercier avocat Michael Stewart parce qu'il devine là avec nous après-midi et nous remercier avocat Antou qui a fait un gros travail dans la communauté et son gros ressources que nous gagnons, nous t'attendons et bon Dieu fait nous gagner, so en nous chercher tout moyen possible parce que tout autant que nous prend service, il y a pour une nécessité, il y a prendre l'autre avocat tout et l'autre avocat haïtien tout qui peut travailler dans la communauté à tout.
Moi-même, je ne pas prendre téléphone non parce que je n'ai pas besoin de téléphone office, c'est lui qui besoin.
Non, il est extrêmement actif avec le téléphone. Même si elle parle, il est actif avec le téléphone. Il est actif, il est très actif. So, pasteur, vous béni nous pour nous aller.
Yeah. Éternel Dieu Tout-Puissant, merci d'être avec nous au cours de forum ça. Nous sentons que nous apprenons en pile bagaille. Nous demandons capable bénir intervenants et bénir chacun de nous, permettre que nous capables passer une bonne soirée sous les regards du Tout-Puissant. Nous prions au nom de Jésus. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
All right.